It was an ordinary morning at JFK International Airport. Travelers rushed through security, announcements echoed, and the smell of coffee filled the air. Among hundreds of faces were two young black women, Alyssa and Amara Green, 19-year-old twin sisters from Atlanta. They had spent the weekend visiting friends in New York and were heading home for college. Carefree, smiling, joking, just two students waiting to board a plane. But in less than an hour, that simple flight would spiral into one of the most viral corporate scandals of the year. The girls reached the boarding gate, laughing about which of them would get the window seat. When their turn came, the agent scanned their tickets and paused. Her cheerful smile froze. "Step aside for a moment, please." The twins exchanged a look, confused but polite. Other passengers continued to board. They waited. 1 minute became 3. Then a supervisor arrived, glanced at their boarding passes, and said flatly, "I'm sorry, you won't be boarding this flight." For a moment, silence. Alyssa thought she misheard. "Excuse me?" she asked. "Is there a problem?" The supervisor looked uneasy. "You were being disruptive." Disruptive? They hadn't said a word. The crowd around them fell quiet. Cell phones came up, recording. The tension grew thick, not loud, just heavy. Amara tried to reason with the staff. "We paid for our tickets. We just want to go home." But the gate agents wouldn't look them in the eye. 2 security officers approached. Without explanation, the twins were escorted away from the gate as the passengers watched. Outside the terminal, they sat on their suitcases, embarrassed, angry, and lost. Then Alyssa made a call. Not to a friend, not to a lawyer, but to their father, Michael Green. To the world, he was the quiet CEO of BILLIONAIRE, a private aviation company that serviced the very airline that had just humiliated his daughters. To his daughters, he was just dad. But that phone call would unleash a storm the airline never saw coming. He listened silently as Alyssa explained. Then he asked just one question. "Did they tell you why?" When she said no, he replied calmly, "Then they'll tell the entire country." Within minutes, phone lines lit up across corporate offices. Michael Green was not shouting. He didn't need to. His influence spoke for him. He called the airline's executive board directly. "Until you can explain this," he said, "ground your flights." They thought it was a bluff. It wasn't. By the end of the afternoon, over 200 flights were delayed, and every major newsroom in America was calling for a statement. Meanwhile, passengers' cell phone videos flooded social media. In clip after clip, the twins could be seen standing silently, confused, never disruptive. The internet exploded. Hashtags like #FlyingWhileBlack and #JusticeForTheGreen Twins trended within hours. Celebrities weighed in. Civil rights groups demanded accountability. The airline, scrambling, issued a vague statement blaming non-compliant passengers. But the footage had already destroyed that lie. By nightfall, Michael Green made his move. BILLIONAIRE, his company, officially suspended its $200 million partnership with the airline. Stock prices began to drop. Inside corporate boardrooms, panic spread. The media dubbed it the flight that crossed the line. The next morning, the story was everywhere. Major networks played the clip on repeat. Talk shows called it a turning point for corporate discrimination. The airline CEO issued a public apology, but it came too late. Under pressure from investors and regulators, multiple executives were forced to resign. Flights were canceled across the country. For the first time in commercial history, an airline had been brought to its knees by a single injustice and 2 young women who refused to be silent. Weeks later, Alyssa and Amara appeared on national television. The interviewer asked what they wanted to say to the airline. Alyssa took a breath. "We didn't want revenge," she said softly. "We wanted respect." The studio fell silent. That clip alone gained millions of views in less than a day. Comment sections filled with words like courage, grace, and justice. For many, these twins became symbols not of anger, but of quiet strength. Months passed. The airline rebranded, changed its logo, and promised reform. But the internet never forgets. Every time a flight delay trended online, someone would comment, "Remember what happened to the Green twins?" Because this wasn't just a story about a flight. It was about a system that thought silence could bury the truth and 2 sisters who proved it couldn't. It was about a father who turned outrage into action and a nation forced to confront what fairness really means. Sometimes, the biggest revolutions don't happen in the streets. They happen quietly, at an airport gate when someone refuses to step aside. Title card. The flight that crossed the line inspired by true events that forced a billion-dollar airline to face its own prejudice.